Many people harbor a deeply ingrained belief that true peace, a profound sense of inner calm, can only be attained through the complete silencing of the mind. Driven by this conviction, they often embark on a relentless quest to push away intrusive thoughts, quiet the incessant inner chatter, or bravely fight against the seemingly endless stream of mental activity that defines human consciousness. It's a valiant, yet often exhausting struggle against an opponent that seems to be an intrinsic part of themselves. However, the ancient wisdom of Buddhism offers a profoundly different and liberating perspective. The ultimate aim, it reveals, is not to eradicate thought itself. Thoughts, much like the ephemeral clouds drifting across a boundless sky, arise and dissipate with a natural, unbidden rhythm. True freedom, therefore, doesn't emerge from a futile attempt to control or suppress these mental phenomena. Instead, it blossoms when we fundamentally transform our relationship with them. Rather than engaging in an arduous internal battle against the mind's natural movements, we are invited to learn how to simply rest within what is known as spacious awareness. This is a profound, calm, and open presence, an expansive inner field that allows thoughts to appear and vanish without ever ensnaring us or pulling us away from our deeper, unchanging self. This understanding is not about the forceful elimination of thoughts. It is about the gentle discovery of the quiet, boundless space that has always existed around them, patiently waiting to be perceived. What if, rather than needing to be meticulously controlled, and the mind simply needs to be understood with compassion and curiosity? The relentless pace of the modern world rarely grants our minds the opportunity for genuine rest. Notifications ping constantly, demanding immediate attention. News cycles churn faster than our capacity to process them, creating a sensation of being perpetually behind. Endless streams of social media and information platforms subtly, yet powerfully, invite comparison, trigger judgment, and provoke automatic reactions. Even when external stimuli finally subside and the world falls quiet, the inner voice often persists, meticulously planning, replaying past conversations, meticulously dissecting every word, or anxiously imagining countless future outcomes. Over time, this ceaseless mental activity begins to feel intrinsically tied to our very identity. We mistakenly equate our thoughts with who we are. A fleeting, worried thought transforms into the conviction, I am anxious. A self-critical thought solidifies into the belief, something is fundamentally wrong with me. This, truly, is the subtle yet insidious trap of the untamed mind. Not merely that thoughts exist, but that we wholeheartedly believe they define the core of our being. Buddhist wisdom, with its timeless clarity, teaches us that thoughts arise naturally, much like sounds register in our ears or sensations appear on our skin. They are merely movements within the vast expanse of the mind, not immutable truths or permanent declarations of identity. The genesis of suffering, the teachings explain, begins when attachment forms. We cling to certain thoughts because they offer a comforting familiarity or present themselves with persuasive conviction. Conversely, we vehemently resist others because they evoke discomfort or fear. This incessant internal push and pull creates an overwhelming sensation of being perpetually trapped within the confines of our own heads. The mind, once a potential sanctuary, becomes loud, crowded, and utterly restless. Yet, the Buddha did not advocate for the disappearance of thoughts. He taught instead that suffering proliferates when we become entangled in them, when we fuse with their content, when we begin to perceive thoughts as ephemeral events, much like passing weather patterns, rather than as defining aspects of our identity, a crucial small distance miraculously appears. That precious distance, however subtle, represents the very first step toward liberation. The mind may continue its ceaseless monologue, but we are no longer compelled to believe every single word it utters. Many individuals approach their thoughts as if they are unruly subjects that must be brought under strict control or swiftly fixed. When uncomfortable ideas surface, the immediate instinct is often to forcefully push them away, to suppress them, or to hurriedly replace them with something more superficially positive. But within the compassionate framework of Buddhist wisdom, the path to mental mastery isn't paved by force or internal coercion. It is, profoundly, about learning to befriend the mind. Instead of waging war against our thoughts, we are gently guided to begin observing them with a quiet, open curiosity. And imagine a thought arising. It lingers for a brief moment. Then, like a wispy cloud gracefully traversing an expansive, open sky, it begins to fade and ultimately disappears. This is precisely where the profound concept of spacious awareness becomes not just important, but utterly transformative. The mind is not solely the sum total of the thoughts it produces. There is also the fundamental awareness itself, the vast, silent capacity that simply notices those thoughts. That fundamental awareness is akin to the sky, boundless, open, and utterly unchanged by whatever passes through it. The thoughts, in this analogy, are simply the ever-shifting weather patterns within that sky. When this foundational perspective profoundly shifts, the grip of stress naturally begins to soften. We no longer feel the heavy burden of responsibility for controlling every single mental movement. Resistance gracefully gives way to an unfolding curiosity. Instead of anxiously asking, "How do I make this thought stop?" we begin to inquire with gentle wonder, "What happens if I simply watch it?" This seemingly small, yet incredibly powerful shift fundamentally transforms our entire relationship with our inner world. The true turning point, the moment of profound realization, arrives when we genuinely comprehend that awareness is the container, not merely the content it holds. You, in your deepest essence, are not confined to the fleeting stories, the intricate narratives, or the urgent pronouncements that ceaselessly pass through the mind. You are the boundless, open space in which they all appear and then gracefully disappear. From this profoundly stable vantage point, thoughts begin to lose much of their inherent urgency. They no longer exert an immediate, compelling demand for reaction or engagement. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the once untamed mind ceases to feel like a vexing problem to be solved, but rather transforms into a vast, intricate landscape to be explored with profound patience and an open, welcoming heart. Understanding the mind in an intellectual sense is one thing. Experiencing its true nature directly, however, is an entirely different and far more transformative endeavor. This is precisely where the practice of equanimity truly begins, not merely as a philosophical concept to ponder, but as a living, direct experiment to be undertaken. Find a quiet moment in your day, perhaps a few minutes of solitude, and simply make the conscious effort to notice what your mind is doing. Thoughts will inevitably appear, some pleasant and inviting, others uncomfortable or even disturbing, and many simply ordinary and mundane. Instead of instinctively analyzing them, judging their merit, or attempting to force them to change, cultivate the practice of gentle, non-interfering observation. In Buddhist teachings, Thoughts are frequently compared to clouds gracefully moving through the sky. The sky itself does not argue with the clouds. It doesn't desperately try to hold on to them, nor does it attempt to push them away. The sky simply allows them to pass through its vastness, utterly undisturbed. In precisely the same way, you can learn to watch thoughts arise and fade without becoming entangled or deeply involved in their unfolding story. A memory appears. Simply notice it. A worry surfaces. Acknowledge its presence without grasping. A random whimsical idea drifts in. Allow it to move on without judgment. This is not indifference. It is a finely tuned, balanced attention, free from attachment or aversion. At first, the mind, accustomed to its old habits, may attempt to judge this very process. Am I doing this correctly? It might ask. Why are these troublesome thoughts still here? When such judgments arise, simply notice the judgment itself, treating it as yet another passing cloud in the sky of your awareness. The true purpose of this practice is not to attain some perfect, unwavering state of calm, but rather to discover the profound truth of impermanence firsthand. Every single thought changes, every emotion shifts, every sensation is fleeting. Even the most powerful mental states lose their intensity and their grip when they are no longer actively fed by resistance or reactive engagement. Gentle noticing, therefore, becomes the essential key. It is not about forcefully imposing silence, nor is it about exhaustively searching for deep meaning in every passing thought. Over time, with consistent practice, equanimity naturally begins to grow and deepen. The mind, no longer expending exhaustive energy fighting its own natural movements, starts to rest more easily and profoundly. And in that quiet, effortless balance, you begin to realize something incredibly simple, yet utterly profound. The sky of awareness remains steadfast and pristine and utterly undisturbed, no matter how many clouds appear and disappear within its boundless expanse. As this awareness deepens and stabilizes, a new and profoundly liberating attitude toward thoughts begins to emerge. What Buddhist practice sometimes refers to as the don't know mind. This does not imply becoming confused, intellectually lazy, or indifferent. On the contrary, it signifies a conscious release from the ingrained habit of needing to analyze, meticulously solve, or tightly control every single thought that surfaces. The untamed mind often mistakenly believes that true clarity can only be achieved through constant, exhaustive thinking and intellectual processing. But true, luminous clarity often arises precisely when we allow some thoughts and questions to simply remain unanswered and to linger in a state of open possibility. When a question materializes, instead of immediately lunging for a definitive conclusion, you simply notice its presence. When uncertainty arises, rather than rushing to frantically resolve it, you allow it to exist, to breathe, without immediate judgment or action. Music. This profound openness, this willingness to allow, cultivates a quiet and deeply expansive form of freedom. One powerful way to cultivate this don't know mind and spaciousness is through integrating micro pauses throughout your day. Before you reflexively reply to a message, take one conscious, intentional breath. Before transitioning from one task to another, take a moment to truly feel your feet connecting with the ground beneath you. These small, deliberate pauses are not interruptions. They are, in fact, precious moments of spaciousness, of returning home to yourself. In those brief sacred gaps, awareness gently returns to its natural, unconditioned state. Another profound shift occurs when thoughts are experienced not as solid, immutable truths, but as fluid, dynamic energy. A thought may initially feel urgent, compelling, or intensely convincing, but when observed closely and without interference, it reveals itself as a transient movement, appearing, changing, and ultimately dissolving. You begin to notice that thoughts are not fixed objects, possessing inherent permanence. Rather, they are simply intricate patterns of sensation and emotion, continuously passing through the field of your awareness. The gentle, unwavering reminder becomes, you do not need to believe every thought that arises with music. This expansive space doesn't. Music. This expansive space doesn't emerge from a forceful attempt to quiet the mind. Instead, it arises organically when the pervasive pressure to control every single mental event gracefully begins to fade. The Buddha taught that awareness becomes truly stable and unshakable when it is unconditional, meaning it is openly receptive and welcoming to pleasant and unpleasant experiences alike, holding nothing back. In this profound, unbiased openness, the mind feels remarkably less crowded. Not because thoughts magically disappear, but because they are no longer held so tightly, no longer given such intense scrutiny and importance. And slowly, almost miraculously, the untamed mind begins its transformation into something truly unexpected, a vast, steady, and infinitely receptive field of awareness where thoughts can freely come and go without ever disturbing the profound peace that has always, without interruption, resided beneath them. When this fundamental relationship with thoughts begins to undergo such a profound transformation, life itself feels distinctly different. Challenges will inevitably continue to arise. Moments of uncertainty will still appear, as they are an inherent part of the human experience. But the mind no longer reacts in the same automatic, habitual, and often overwhelming way. Instead of becoming ensnared and overwhelmed by every mental movement, you begin to respond with a quiet, grounded awareness. This cultivates a subtle yet incredibly powerful form of inner resilience, the unwavering ability to adapt and navigate life's inevitable fluctuations without losing your precious inner balance. Buddhist wisdom does not offer a naive promise of a life entirely devoid of difficulty or pain. Instead, it offers something infinitely more practical and liberating, the profound freedom to meet each moment of life exactly as it is, without being controlled or defined by its fleeting nature. As resistance towards our inner experience gently fades, creativity naturally begins to surface with remarkable ease. When thoughts are no longer suppressed, judged, or constantly struggled against, the mind becomes inherently more open, more flexible, and remarkably more receptive. Ideas flow more freely, unhindered by internal censorship, and intuition becomes clearer, like a quiet voice that can finally be heard above the mental din. This isn't because the mind has been forcefully silenced, but because it is no longer trapped in a ceaseless, exhausting struggle with itself. Living from this place of profound awareness means choosing to respond thoughtfully, rather than merely reacting impulsively. A difficult thought appears, and instead of automatically following its trajectory, you pause. You simply notice its presence, and from that space of awareness, you consciously choose how to move forward, or even if to move forward at all. Over time, the untamed mind, once perceived as chaotic, slowly reveals its hidden strength, its inherent dynamism, and its profound aliveness. What once felt like an adversary begins to feel like a vibrant, integral part of your being. The Buddha taught that true wisdom arises not when we fight against the mind's natural, spontaneous movements, But when we cease that struggle, when thoughts are allowed to come and go freely, unburdened by our grasping or aversion, they lose their inherent power to define us, to limit us, or to dictate our experience. And in that expansive, unconditioned freedom, life becomes less about meticulously controlling every single experience and more about gracefully moving through each moment with profound clarity, open-heartedness, and a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from deep within. Thoughts were never truly the problem. They arrive and depart, continuously changing their shape and form, much like the ephemeral clouds that drift across the vast canvas of the sky. What often goes unnoticed, obscured by the content of those thoughts, is the quiet, ever-present awareness that has been here all along, the boundless, open space in which every thought miraculously appears and then dissolves. You do not need to forcefully bend the mind to your will or demand its absolute silence to experience the profound peace that is already your birthright. You only need to gently notice what is already here, perfectly present in this very moment today. Begin with one simple moment of awareness. It could be a single conscious breath, felt fully in your body, or a passing thought observed gently, without any judgment or attachment. If this reflection has resonated deeply within you, we warmly invite you to share your experience and insights in the comments below. And if you yearn for more calm and grounded guidance rooted in the timeless wisdom of Buddhist teachings, you are heartily invited to subscribe and continue this transformative journey with us. Remember, the mind may move like clouds, but the boundless, radiant sky of awareness was never and can never be disturbed.